Here's why Daemon chose to kill the strong boy's loyalty in the tunnel of Harrenhal. Welcome to the channel. Subscribe if you love House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, and deep dives into Westerosi lore. Let's begin. Welcome back to the channel, where we dive deep into the darkest shadows and hidden motivations of House of the Dragon. Today, we're going to unravel one of the most chilling and perplexing moments of Daemon Targaryen's story. The night he broke the loyalty of the strong boys in the haunted tunnels of Harrenhal. It's a moment layered with paranoia, ambition, and cruelty. On the surface, it looks like Daemon committing yet another act of cold calculation. But underneath, it speaks to the heart of who Daemon was, a man both bound by love for his house and poisoned by insecurity, rage, and the ghosts that haunted him. So why did Daemon do it? Why target the so-called strong boys, Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey Valerion, who were already torn between their Valerian heritage, their mother Rhaenyra, and the whispers of bastardy? Why did Daemon choose Harrenhal, a place of curses and betrayal, as the stage for this twisted display of loyalty and dominance? By the end of this video, you'll understand that Daemon's decision wasn't just an act of cruelty. It was about control, fear of betrayal, and the endless hunger for power during the Dance of the Dragons. And just like Harrenhal itself, the deeper you go, the darker it gets. Let's break it down. To understand why Daemon acted against the strong boys, we first have to step into his mindset during this stage of the war. Daemon was a man of contradictions. On one hand, he was a loyal husband to Rhaenyra, fighting for her claim to the Iron Throne. On the other, he was infamous for his brutality, his ambition, and his willingness to burn everything to achieve victory. He was the rogue prince, both the sword and the shadow. But Daemon also understood politics. He knew that bloodlines mattered in Westeros more than anything else. And here lay the great issue with the strong boys. Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey Valerion were Rhaenyra's children in name. They were Valerians by marriage. But everyone knew the truth whispered in the courts. They were bastards fathered by Harwin Strong. This meant that their very existence weakened Rhaenyra's claim to the Iron Throne. Daemon may have married Rhaenyra for love, lust, or ambition, but he understood that every whisper of illegitimacy chipped away at her authority. So when the war reached its bloodiest stages, Daemon could not afford doubts. He needed absolute loyalty. And in his eyes, the strong boys carried too much of Harwin's blood, too much of another man's legacy. The choice of Harrenhal was not a coincidence. Harrenhal has always been a symbol in Westerosi history. Built by Harren the Black, it was destroyed by Aegon the Conqueror's dragons, and ever since, it carried a reputation of being cursed. Lords who held it often fell quickly, betrayed, or destroyed by fate. Daemon seizing Harrenhal was already a move drenched in symbolism. But its tunnels and ruins became something darker, a place where paranoia thrived. Daemon, isolated in this haunted fortress, began seeing visions and hearing whispers. In Fire and Blood, he is described as restless in Harrenhal, almost tormented by the shadows of the place. Whether those whispers were madness, guilt, or true supernatural curses doesn't matter. What matters is how they fed into Daemon's paranoia. And in those tunnels, he staged his breaking of the strong boys' loyalty. Before the betrayal, it's important to know that the strong boys were deeply loyal to Rhaenyra, and by extension, Daemon. Jacaerys Valerion had been raised to be a king. He carried himself with the dignity of Rhaenyra's heir, though even he struggled under the weight of the whispers. Lucerys Valerion, younger and less sure of himself, had been made Lord of Storms and's future seat, but constantly doubted his worth. Joffrey Valerion, the youngest, was still a boy, but he too carried the legacy of his supposed father, Harwin Strong. Their loyalty was not just political, it was personal. They loved their mother. They wanted her to succeed. But Daemon, in his paranoia, did not trust love alone. So why would Daemon choose to attack them, psychologically and emotionally, in Harrenhal? 1. Erasing Harwin Strong's shadow. Daemon despised the idea that another man's blood lived on in Rhaenyra's children. By breaking their loyalty, Daemon was symbolically cutting off Harwin's hold over them. It was his way of saying, "You're not strong. You're either Targaryen or nothing." 2. Testing their strength. Daemon believed in fire and blood. He believed loyalty had to be tested, not assumed. By forcing the boys into a terrifying trial, he was measuring whether they would bend or break. 3. Paranoia of betrayal. The Dance of the Dragons was full of shifting loyalties. Houses like Hightower, Lannister, and even Baratheon chose sides not always out of honor, but out of convenience. Daemon feared that one day, the strong boys might abandon their mother's cause if their bastard heritage was used against them. 4. The Curse of Harrenhal. In a twisted way, Daemon may have believed he was fulfilling Harrenhal's curse. Every lord of Harrenhal seemed doomed to betrayal, loss, or ruin. By shattering the strong boys' loyalty here, Daemon was letting history repeat itself. Now, let's dive into the infamous event itself. The tunnels beneath Harrenhal were a maze of stone and shadow. Legend said they were haunted by the burned ghosts of Harren the Black and his sons. It was here Daemon brought the strong boys, one by one, into darkness. He confronted them with the truth of their birth. He questioned their loyalty not just to Rhaenyra, but to him as her husband and commander. He forced them to admit whether they saw themselves as Valerians, Strongs, or Targaryens. This was not a conversation. It was an interrogation laced with cruelty. Daemon's sword, Dark Sister, was set to gleam in the torchlight as he loomed over them. The boys, shaken and terrified, swore loyalty. But the damage was already done. Their bond with Daemon was broken. Daemon thought he was securing loyalty, but in truth, he was planting the seeds of resentment. Jacaerys, though still devoted to his mother, began to see Daemon as a rival rather than an ally. He would carry suspicion of Daemon's motives into his leadership. Lucerys, already insecure, was left shaken. This moment likely haunted him before his fateful flight against Daemon. Joffrey, though young, never forgot Daemon's cruelty. It distanced him emotionally from the man meant to protect their family. Instead of binding them closer, Daemon created cracks in their loyalty. He ensured that if the strong boys ever had to choose between him and Rhaenyra, they would choose their mother. In the long run, this made Daemon more isolated. When the war turned against them, he could not count on their unquestioned support. This betrayal of the strong boys is one of the clearest examples of Daemon's duality. He was a brilliant commander, a ruthless tactician, and a man unafraid of doing what others would not. But he was also his own worst enemy. His inability to trust, his obsession with bloodlines, and his reliance on fear rather than love often turned allies into enemies. The breaking of the strong boys' loyalty at Harrenhal was Daemon's attempt to secure the future, but instead, it weakened the very bonds his side needed most. Because in his mind, he couldn't.